6%. That is a share of 401k participants at Vanguard who took hardship withdrawals last year, 3 times the pre-pandemic baseline, 6 consecutive years of increases. But the number that should actually stop you is not 6%. It is $1,900. That is the median withdrawal amount, according to Vanguard's 2026 data. People are dismantling their financial futures, paying 30% or more in combined taxes and penalties on money they already earned, and permanently surrendering decades of compounding growth they will never get back for the cost of a slightly ambitious car repair. And I am going to show you specifically how the system was redesigned to make this mathematically predictable and how it catches the most disciplined savers, not just the careless ones. There's a man I'm going to call Marcus. He did everything right for 15 years. I'm going to tell you what happened to him toward the end of this video. Because Marcus is not a cautionary tale about discipline. He is a cautionary tale about system design. And if you have a 401k loan outstanding right now, Marcus is the most important 3 minutes of this video. Here is the story you hear about this trend. Americans are financially irresponsible. They live beyond their means. They don't budget. They're raiding their 401ks because they lack self-control. That framing is comfortable for financial institutions to repeat. It puts the moral weight on you, removes any responsibility from the system design, and conveniently ignores the data. According to Empower's June 2025 research, and this figure genuinely floored me when I first read it, the median emergency savings balance across Americans right now is $500. $500. That is not a discipline problem. That is a structural gap. And the 401k system, as it has been modified over the last several years, has a specific feature that accelerates this gap rather than closes it. Today, I'm walking you through 3 levels of the problem: the visible cost, the hidden system trap, and the quiet design choice nobody in Washington wants to headline. And I'm going to give you a concrete framework for making sure the number on your withdrawal form is always 0. Here is the metaphor I want you to hold on to for this entire video. A 401k is a slow cooker. You add the ingredients: pre-tax dollars, employer match, market returns, close the lid, and walk away for 30 years. What comes out of retirement is the entire point of the machine. The tax-deferred compounding, the employer match leverage, the tax drag reduction. None of it works unless the lid stays shut. Not partially shut, completely shut. The moment you open it mid-cycle, you burn your hand, you disrupt the internal temperature, and you get less of a meal than you started cooking. Now, Congress, over the last 8 years, has been quietly lowering the lid, making it easier to grip, and then looking at the rising withdrawal rates as evidence of financial stress rather than as evidence of a lid that was made easier to open on purpose. The slow cooker comes back up throughout this video. Because every time we talk about someone raiding their account, we are talking about someone opening that lid. In a few minutes, I'm going to walk you through the exact trap that catches not the undisciplined saver, but the one who did everything right, took a loan, not a withdrawal, and still ended up with a tax bill on money they never spent. But first, here's why the cost of opening the lid is at least triple what most people calculate. Here is a math problem. You need $5,000. You have it in your 401k. You think 5,000 in, 5,000 out. That is not what happens. Walk through the actual numbers. First, ordinary income tax. That money was never taxed, it went in pre-tax. The IRS collects now. In the 22% federal bracket, which covers single filers earning roughly $47,000 to $100,000 in 2025, that is $1,100 immediately gone. Then, the 10% early withdrawal penalty for anyone under 59.5, another $500. Federal damage, $1,600. Your $5,000 withdrawal puts $3,400 in your hand before your state collects. In California, add 9.3% state income tax, another $465. You are now at roughly $2,100 in total tax damage on a $5,000 withdrawal. 42 cents of every dollar disappears. But those are the visible costs. The invisible cost is the one that actually defines the transaction. That $5,000, left alone at a 7% annualized return for 20 years. A conservative estimate based on historical S&P 500 returns over rolling 30-year windows would have grown to $19,300, $143. So the true cost of opening the lid is not $2,000 in tax and penalty. The true cost is $2,000 today plus $14,000 in future retirement wealth. You permanently surrendered. You spent $19,000 in future value to solve a $5,000 problem today. That is a 3.8 to 1 destruction ratio. US News ran the specific example of a 45-year-old taking a $10,000 withdrawal in the 22% bracket. $3,200 in combined tax and penalty, plus $22,000 less in their account at 65 at a 6% return. Total cost of the $10,000 withdrawal, $25,200. The lid was opened. The burn was real. The dish will be permanently smaller. Now you might be thinking, what about the loan option? No penalty, right? You borrow from yourself, pay yourself back with interest. The account keeps compounding. The slow cooker stays warm. I understand why that sounds better. It is better in one specific scenario, and it is catastrophic in one specific other scenario. And that second scenario is more common than you think. I'll come back to that. But first, let me show you the part of this story that has been hiding in plain sight in the legislative record. Your 401k plan's explanation of the early withdrawal penalty is, of course, available in the plan document, which is 40 pages long in 8-point font, with a table of contents that uses the words hardship distribution and in-service withdrawal as if they are obviously different things. Stay with me, because this next part recasts everything you think you know about who is responsible for this trend. In 2018, Congress made a structural change to 401k hardship rules. They removed the requirement that plan participants exhaust loan options before taking a hardship withdrawal. Before that change, there was a sequencing requirement. You had to at least attempt the loan route first. That friction was a speed bump. It forced a moment of reconsideration. Congress removed it. That is year one of the 6-year streak of rising withdrawal rates. Then, in 2022, the Secure 2 Act passed. Among many provisions, it introduced penalty-free emergency distributions of up to $1,000 per year, self-certified by the participant with no documentation required. The withdrawal process was streamlined, the administrative time to process requests dropped, and auto-enrollment, which Secure 2 expanded significantly as of 2025. All new 401k and 403b plans must automatically enroll eligible employees. At 3% contribution meant that more workers, particularly lower income workers, now had 401k balances for the first time, which means more workers had something to withdraw. Vanguard noted this explicitly in their report. The increase in withdrawals was partly explained by broader plan access and easier process, not purely by financial distress. Congress opened the lid, lowered it, put a handle on it, and then expressed concern about how many people were using the handle. Here is the reversal. You think the problem is that Americans are taking too many hardship withdrawals. The actual problem is that the hardship withdrawal mechanism is now the most accessible financial safety valve in the country, and it is accessed at a 30% or more cost because the alternative, a functional emergency savings account, has a $500 median balance. The 401k became America's emergency fund by default, not because people are irresponsible, because every other safety valve was removed or was never built. And here is where the data gets genuinely uncomfortable, because the headline numbers on 401ks right now are positive. The average Vanguard participant balance hit $167,970 in 2025, up 13% year over year. Fidelity reported average balances of $146,400, up 11%, the third straight year of double-digit gains. The number of 401k millionaires hit a record 665,000 in the fourth quarter of 2025. According to Fidelity, the market was up. Retirement account numbers looked healthy. and hardship withdrawals simultaneously hit an all-time record, both true at the same time, which tells you everything about who the averages are serving. The median Vanguard balance in 2025 was $44,115, not $168,000, $44,000. The average is being hauled upward by the 665,000 millionaires. The median, the number that actually describes the middle of the distribution, the person who is more representative of your neighbor or your colleague, is 44,000. And the median tells an even darker story. When you look at the National Institute on Retirement Security report from February 2026, their analysis of Census Bureau survey data found that the median retirement savings for all working-age Americans, everyone from 21 to 64 years old, is $955. $955. That figure includes everyone, those with retirement accounts and those without. When you look specifically at Americans between 55 and 64, 5 to 10 years from standard retirement age, the median amount saved is $30,000. $30,000. At the standard 4% withdrawal rule that every financial advisor has cited in the last 20 years, $30,000 generates $100 per month in retirement income. By the way, hit subscribe if you like the content, otherwise YouTube's algorithm may never show you my videos again. The 4% rule, as a framework, assumes you have a large enough balance that 4% of it is meaningful income. It is mathematically accurate and practically useless when applied to a $30,000 balance. More on the specific failure mode of that rule in a moment. What matters right now is the picture this data paints. The K-shape of the American retirement system. The top decile of savers, those with balances over $300,000, are compounding beautifully. Record millionaire counts, record average balances. The bottom 60%, many of them are using their slow cooker as an ATM, paying the 30% destruction fee, because the system was never structured to require that they build a separate financial buffer first. And the financial anxiety data confirms it. Betterment's 2025 Retirement Readiness Report, based on over 1,000 full-time employees, found that 90% of American workers reported financial anxiety, the highest level in the survey's 5-year history. Gen X, which is the generation currently between roughly 44 and 59, the cohort that is closest to needing the slow cooker to actually be ready, is the least confident generation, with only 61% believing they will save enough. 39% of the people most exposed to retirement shortfall at the least recoverable point in their savings timeline do not think they are going to make it. Here is the part of the knowledge gap that your financial advisor will charge you to half explain. The 4% rule was derived from research by William Bengen in 1994 based on historical market data. It calculated the maximum withdrawal rate that would not exhaust a portfolio over a 30-year retirement. The problem is that it assumes you retire at a specific market valuation, that your early retirement years see average returns, and that your spending is flat. None of those conditions are guaranteed. If your first 5 years of retirement coincide with a significant market drawdown, the scenario researchers call sequence of returns risk, the 4% rule fails. You withdraw the same dollar amount, but from a shrinking base, which means the percentage you are withdrawing rises, which accelerates depletion. This is not a theoretical concern. This is the specific failure mode that hits people who retire in a down market without a buffer. And it is the reason that a dynamic withdrawal approach, one that adjusts the withdrawal rate based on actual portfolio performance rather than assuming a fixed percentage forever exists in retirement research, but almost never makes it into a standard advisor conversation. Knowing the numbers and building a system around them are two genuinely different things. I know this because I had this data years before I built a framework around it, and the data alone did not move my projected exit date by a single month. So I wrote something down. It is called the Exit Code. It is 8 chapters of pure research built on 50 years of actual retirement data. 2 things in it connect directly to what we are talking about today. The first is the dynamic withdrawal method, an alternative to the 4% rule that adjusts your annual withdrawal rate based on real market conditions instead of assuming every year looks the same. It uses the same historical data, but produces materially better outcomes in the specific scenario where your retirement starts in a down market. The second is the 58% rule, which sounds like a strange name until you see the data. Roughly 58% of people who plan to retire at a specific date exit the workforce earlier than they intended, most of them because of a health event, a layoff, or a caregiving responsibility. The buffer strategy in that chapter is built around that number, the specific financial architecture you need to handle an exit that comes 2 to 4 years earlier than you planned. The exit code is through the link in the description for less than the cost of a dinner out. Every year you wait on building this framework is a year the compounding math works against your projected date instead of for it. Now, the loan trap. Because this is the mechanism that catches the people who are doing everything right. 13% of 401k participants had an outstanding loan against their account as of 2024, according to Vanguard. The average outstanding balance, $11,000. The structure sounds clean. You borrow up to 50% of your vested balance, maximum $50,000. You repay through automatic payroll deductions over 5 years. The interest, typically the prime rate plus 1 point, goes back into your account. Your balance technically continues to compound on the remaining amount, not on the borrowed portion. No credit check, no bank involved. If you are in a cash crunch, you can tell yourself you are borrowing from yourself, paying yourself back, and the account keeps growing. The slow cooker is technically still on, even with a bite taken. Here is the specific failure condition. You lose your job. Voluntarily, involuntarily, restructuring does not matter. The moment you separate from employment with an outstanding 401k loan, the repayment timeline changes completely. Under rules updated by the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, you have until the tax filing deadline of the following year, typically April 15th or October 15th, with an extension to repay the outstanding balance in full. If you cannot repay by that deadline, the unpaid balance is treated as a deemed distribution. It is reported on Form 1099-R. It gets added to your taxable income for the year, and if you are under 59.5, the 10% early withdrawal penalty applies. You receive zero cash. The money was borrowed and spent. But the IRS considers the unpaid balance a distribution anyway, and the tax bill arrives the following spring. Most people who take 401k loans, according to retirement research, stop thinking about them once the payroll deductions begin. The repayments become invisible, just another line item on a pay stub. And critically, if you leave your job, many employees do not even realize the automatic repayments have stopped because the paycheck is gone and there's no notification mechanism reminding them the loan clock is now running. The loan converts to a distribution silently. Then they receive a Form 1099-R in January and are confused and furious. Run the specific numbers. $30,000 outstanding on a 401k loan realistic if someone borrowed 2 or 3 times across different years against a growing account. Job loss happens. The $30,000 cannot be repaid by April 15th. $30,000 added to that year's taxable income. In the 22% bracket, federal income tax alone is $6,600 on the distribution. Add the 10% early withdrawal penalty, $3,000 more. $9,600 in tax damage on money that was supposed to be a zero interest loan. And the $30,000 is permanently gone from the account. Compounding value of $30,000 at 7% over 20 years. $115,763. That is the actual slow cooker cost, not $30,000. $115,763 in future retirement wealth, surrendered to fund an $11,000 cash gap, and then a job loss that nobody planned for. The lid is open. The dish is destroyed. This brings us to the fundamental diagnosis, because the withdrawal numbers and the loan default numbers are symptoms. The actual disease is structural, according to a 2026 U.S. News Nationwide survey conducted in January of that year. 43% of Americans do not have enough savings to pay for a $1,000 emergency expense. From savings, not credit cards, not loans. Savings. According to Empower's June 2025 research, the median American emergency savings balance is $500. That is the number that feeds every statistic I have cited in this video. The median is $500. That is the answer to why are people opening the slow cooker. Not discipline, not intelligence, not financial literacy. People know what the penalty is. They know it will cost them 30%. They open it anyway because there is literally no other container in the kitchen. Bankrate's 2026 emergency savings report found that roughly 3 in 10 Americans have more credit card debt than emergency savings. 1/3 say their savings would not cover even 1 month of expenses. More than 40% say they have no emergency fund at all. And the savings rate itself has been declining. BlackRock's 2025 retirement survey found that the median personal savings rate among retirement savers dropped from 12% in 2022 10% in 2025. The gap between what people need saved and what they actually have is widening as costs compound against wages that have not kept pace. Here is the reversal that should reframe the entire conventional advice you have received. The standard financial guidance, max your 401k, invest early, let compounding do the work is mathematically correct. But it is structurally dangerous if applied without building a liquid emergency buffer first. Because compounding only works when the lid stays shut. The lid only stays shut when there is another container to reach into. The person who maxes their 401k contribution every year but keeps $2,000 in checking has built a powerful wealth machine with no pressure release valve. The first major emergency a month of job loss, a deductible on a health event, a structural issue with the house puts them in a scenario where their best remaining option is to open the slow cooker. And they will pay 30% to do it. The math that was supposed to make them wealthy becomes the mechanism of their financial setback. The 3 levels of this problem laid out as a framework. Level 1 is the emergency fund gap. No liquid savings means the 401k becomes the emergency fund. Cost: up to 45% of every dollar withdrawn in combined federal and state taxes and penalties, plus the permanent compounding damage on the withdrawn amount, often 3 to 4 times the withdrawal value in future retirement wealth. Level 2 is the loan trap. The loan looks like a safe alternative to the withdrawal, and in stable employment, it mostly is. But the specific failure condition, job loss with an outstanding balance, converts the loan to a distribution retroactively, generating the same tax damage on money already spent. The failure mode is more likely than people assume, because the most common reason for defaulting on a 401k loan is job loss, and job loss is a universal risk. Level 3 is the benchmark illusion. Average 401k balances look reassuring in headlines. Record: 665,000 millionaires. Average balances up 13%, but the median balance is $44,000. And for 55 to 64-year-olds, the group for whom time is running shortest, the median retirement savings across all Americans is $30,000. The headline average is statistical noise created by the people at the top of a deeply unequal distribution. Using it to assess your own readiness is the financial equivalent of saying the average American has 1 testicle and 1 ovary, therefore I should be fine. Financial advisor explaining the sequence of returns risk to you in very confident language. Also charging 1.2% of your portfolio per year to explain it to you, and then put you in a 60-40 split that smooths volatility so gently. It also smooths returns to the point where you would have done better in an index fund and let the advisor keep the money they charge for the meeting. Now, Marcus, I told you about him at the top of the video. 44 years old, 15 years of consistent 401k contributions. Never missed a year, never borrowed, never touched it. His balance by early 2024 was $92,000. The discipline was real, but Marcus had $4,000 in a joint checking account and nothing else liquid. No separate emergency fund. He had read the advice max the 401k, and he did. What he had not built was the pressure release valve. His company restructured in early 2024. Marcus survived the first round of layoffs but took a compensation cut from $68,000 to $53,000 annually. His mortgage did not restructure with him. His daughter needed orthodontic work. 6 months into the new salary, He had a $1,200 shortfall in a month where 3 large bills hit simultaneously. The 401k was the only container available. He took a loan for $15,000. Payroll deductions began. He did not think about it much. The lid was technically back on. The slow cooker was technically running. 8 months later, Marcus's entire division was eliminated. He was laid off. He had $9,300 still outstanding on the loan. The plan gave him until April 15th of the following year to repay it in full. Marcus did not have $9,300 liquid dollars. He had just lost his job. The $9,300 was classified as a deemed distribution. He received Form 1099R in January, $2,046 in federal income tax at his effective marginal rate, $930 in early withdrawal penalty, nearly $3,000 in tax damage on money he never received as cash. His account lost $9,300 permanently. The compounding value of $9,300 at 7% over 21 years. The distance between Marcus at 44 and 65 is $39,800. Marcus lost close to $40,000 in future retirement wealth because he had no emergency fund and took a loan instead of building one. He rebuilt. He found another job within 4 months. He is contributing again. But he is rebuilding from a permanently lower base with a shorter runway in the most expensive window of his career to make up lost ground. Marcus did not make a mathematical mistake. He did not fail to understand the penalty. He failed to build a second pot before he focused all his attention on the slow cooker. And the system made it easy, almost frictionless, to open the lid when the pressure built. 3 things to do with this. Specific, calibrated to this exact problem, not general advice. The first, before you increase 401k contributions above the employer match threshold, fund a liquid emergency account in a high-yield savings account. The employer match is free money, a 100% instant return on whatever you contribute up to the match limit. Capture that, but every dollar you direct into the slow cooker beyond the match, before you have 3 to 6 months of expenses in a separate account, is a dollar with a 30% cost you are choosing to accept if life happens. This is not a general principle. It is the specific fix for level 1 of the problem I described. The 401k compounds for you only if the lid stays shut. The lid only stays shut if there is somewhere else to go first. Second, if you have an outstanding 401k loan, map your employment risk to your loan balance explicitly. Know your plan's exact repayment grace period. After job separation, most are until the tax filing deadline, but some plans are faster. Know the outstanding balance. If your industry is volatile right now, if your company has been announcing restructuring, if you have any credible reason to believe your employment is less than fully stable, that loan has a deadline risk profile you need to model. The loan is secured by your employment status. Treat it accordingly. Third, stop benchmarking your retirement position against average 401k balances. The average is wrong for you in the same way that average shoe size is wrong for you. It is statistically derived from a distribution that includes a lot of people who are not you, and the top end of that distribution pulls the average above where most people actually are. Your number is your number, projected forward at a realistic rate of return against your actual expected spending with a realistic buffer for the roughly 58% probability that you exit employment earlier than you planned. If the math shows a gap, the answer is not to open the lid now. The answer is to fix the trajectory, close the lid tighter, and build the second pot before the pressure builds. Lazy investing built more fortune than crypto memes. And the 401k millionaires who made Fidelity's record list in 2025 have one thing in common. They never once reached for the handle.